Hello everyone, it is Saturday the 14th of March 2015. My name is Chris Ellis and welcome to another show on the World Crypto Network announcing that we have now got a fancy new price indicator. It's charting our progress on the ProTIp crowdfund campaign over here on Indiegogo. All the links are below. And this is because I was getting messages when I woke up this morning. I had about 15 people leaving me messages, and many of you were saying that you were finding it complicated because obviously we're raising in Bitcoin, and you've got a link here now that takes you straight to the Bitcoin address so you can see how much we're raising. And we've also got a tally up here that Indiegogo are running for us. So what I've done is I've gone into Google Docs and I've created a nice little chart there, and then I put my own sort of graphic on top, and then I've overlaid it up here. So I'm going to be updating this every morning so that you can see how much we've actually raised net. Now, the other thing I wanted to say is that we have been ranking on the front page of the technology section. So if you scroll down on the front page, here we are, lonely little us, but look at what's below us. Doom. We must stay above doom. If we go below here, no one's going to click on the show more button, right? Which means you need to keep on sending in those donations. And it looks as though we're pretty much neck and neck. We've got $1,000 in the Bitcoin, and we've got about, oh, actually, no, a bit more actually, $1,600 on the Indiegogo. And a couple of you have mentioned that we should probably be topping up the Indiegogo with the Bitcoin funds. I have considered that. We've got a few people that are reaching out to us right now that do local Bitcoin trades, saying they'll do it for spot price and all this kind of thing, just trying to help us out. I really, really appreciate your help. I might actually do that because I think it will help with the Indiegogo algorithms. Essentially, what these crowd funds do is they give you a platform. They're an SEO company, essentially. They give you visibility and leverage. But frankly, so far, got to be honest, not that impressed with PayPal and Indiegogo, that we had problems with them straight away. Got an email from PayPal this afternoon asking me how satisfied I was with their service. Not that satisfied. It took me 90 minutes just to sort it out. And so I'm sort of in a situation where, you know, I think Bitcoin at the moment it's winning for me. I know what the rest of you guys think.
Well, Bitcoin's clear winner, winner always, isn't it? No, but this is fantastic. I mean, we've had so much news coming in and so much support from everywhere. And Chris, you've been real pathfinder on this project.
I mean, it's just when you take into account all the effort that goes into setting up one of these crowdfund campaigns. I mean, it's instant to set up a Bitcoin address. It took me a week to generate the ProTIp address, and I just got an old little laptop. And it took me a week to get the vanity address. But once I'd set up the social media stuff, I'm starting to question the value of these centralized systems like Indiegogo, because if we don't reach that 50,000 fund, then they end up taking like 9%. And then once you add on the PayPal's 3 to 4% and all the currency conversions coming in from overseas, so I'm just saying, like, this was always going to be, you know, this was my sort of venture out into the world of big crowdfunding. We've done crowdfunds before. Tom's with us as well. Got the Bitcoin address up on the screen there. So if you want to get your phones out, send that money coming in. He's not using the ProTIp app like I am though. Let me show you the difference. Right, we're going to give like a little demo of it working. So can you see my screen?
Actually, you are running it.
You are working it.
I was showing it. It was there.
Oh, you were showing it. Yeah. So look, this is the ProTIp demo app working. It's actually, well, I say it's demo. It's pretty much calling it an alpha, really, and automatically finds Bitcoin addresses on the page. Only the top 3. Don't be worrying about spammers. They're not going to get your Bitcoins accidentally. You get plenty of time to create the process. But that's not the only thing we're going to be talking about today. I am joined today by a very special guest, Preston Byrne. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Say hi.
Hi, how you doing? I was just saying, this Indiegogo thing is really a complete pain in the ass, because I keep trying to give you $50, and then it asks me to give you 100, which I don't want to do because I'm cheap. So yeah, I mean this centralization.
Like that auto 100 option. That sounds good.
But yeah, dude, if we give like the 100, if you give the 100, we get to promote you on our webpage as an artist.
Yeah, but as an artist, I'm not a fucking artist. I'm a businessman, and I like marmots.
Put yourself down, Preston. Come on.
I don't know. But no, good to be back on the show, Chris.
It's lovely to have you here.
As you.
And we've also got Shem, a very own Russell Brand sound alike.
I know. No, it's great to be on, and it's fantastic that we've convened today, the four of us, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Preston, and great to see you, Thomas, and obviously Chris. I really feel it's exciting times at the moment, especially with the projects that are occurring. Everyone's cooking lots of different things in the kitchen, as to say. And I just want to kind of bring us on to our first topic. I mean, lots has been going down. Last time we kind of convened in this way, it was just an emergency Bitcoin conference because the price was crashing down, and it's great that we're coming back up to the standard point and we look like we're in an upward trend. What really stuck with me is the words from the guys from the Whale Club when he said downward bubble. So, it's a very comforting feeling to know that downward bubbles pop and go back up. And thank you very much, Thomas, for just giving us some great stats there. I want us to talk about our first subject tonight, and we've got so much to cover. The cream of the crop, Bitcoin, crypto world crypto news, whatever way. I want us to talk about IBM. How? I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. I want us to talk about what's happening. Try not to laugh, Preston. But all those people out there, this IBM Adept system, take us through it, boys. This is Roundtable. This is Chatham House Rules. Shout, scream, pull your pants down.
Well, it's not Chatham House Rules, is it?
It is, Xavier.
That would be a bit silly.
What do you mean?
You're out of order. This whole system's out of order.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. Well, Chatham House Rules, in essence. But guys, what do you mean? Seriously, take us through the tech side. What is IBM Adept? How is it composed?
Well, obviously, it's Bitcoin without Bitcoin. So
that's press release then.
Hold on. I can answer that, but I'm currently giving you money. So thank you for
that's the
supporting
priority, actually.
Here we go. Post a comment. Here is your damn money. Go build some stuff, you limey goon. No, I'm limey. That's racist. I get arrested for that. You goon. There we go. Post comment. There we go. Hurrah. So yes. So now you're at $1,689 US. So IBM's thing isn't actually Bitcoin derived. It's Ethereum derived. So what they did is what we did over at Eris Industries is last June we managed to find a way to get some BitTorrent pointers onto. Are you all there? I'm currently getting a black screen. Yep, cool.
Yeah.
So we got some. So what we did is we got some BitTorrent pointers onto a Ethereum testnet chain, and we're like, cool. So now you can have like off-chain data displaying in JavaScript. Well, then in October, IBM was like, hey, we've got this really original idea. We're gonna like put some BitTorrent pointers on a blockchain, and because they had a PR team, everyone's like, oh my God, that's amazing. So basically what they did is they forked Ethereum's chain, then they mashed it together with Telehash, which is a peer-to-peer messaging system, and BitTorrent, and they said, hey, this is this thing called Adept. And so what that is it, the Ethereum blockchain, their chief innovation, and it's brilliant, is having all of this scripting capability on a single blockchain. And so IBM was like, hey, if you can do that, you can get it, talking in a much more complex way than the Bitcoin blockchain allows. So what Adept was, it was something like a mobile phone talking to a washing machine. And I'm not sure why they just wouldn't want to use Telehash or something like that, but they figured a blockchain was appropriate. So what this is for them is sort of the next step. So as I understand it, the big story this week is that IBM wants to provide a central bank chain on a blockchain. My guess is they would not use a Bitcoin derivative. I don't think a Bitcoin derivative would be especially appropriate for that. Given the way the architecture works, they'll probably do another fork of Ethereum. Or if they wanted to, they could frankly, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, but we can on Thelonious, which is Eris Industries chain design, we've already tested real-time gross settlement systems.
All right, don't plug your stuff. It's all right. We know you're amazing. We know you're amazing.
You didn't buy the £100. You didn't buy the $100 package.
No, seriously, guys. Does that mean then? I mean, are you saying, Preston, that they can use this Adept system to kind of make an Internet of Things? You said washing machine talks to a toaster or something. I'm not techie. I'm just kind of rolling this back for the viewers out there.
A blockchain's a frickin' database. Like, it's a data structure. It's a piece of software. You can tell it to do whatever you want, as long as it has the capability of holding those instructions. So and basically, what is it? It's Git with a transaction management that's based on proof of work that also has write permissions based on private keys. Great, like super. So you mash those three things together, and you've got this really simple data structure which has very efficient security architecture, which is capable of updating itself across many different computers all at the same time when they need to agree what the state is of the particular system that they're operating in. So if you have 100 different washing machines, let's say you run a laundromat or a chain of laundromats, and you want to make sure that all of your laundry machines are priced appropriately. And let's say you wanted to do demand-specific pricing. So at certain times of the day, if there were fewer laundry machines, you would jack up the price in order to maximize your profits, because you knew that more people needed these mobile washers. That would be the kind of thing where you would want to have a blockchain involved, so you can send those commands back and forth, see what's moving back and forth in terms of value, and have a very verifiable record of everything that's happened if you don't want to supervise it particularly well. So, I mean, IBM's got the right idea, but I think that they're kind of barking up the wrong tree, because to be perfectly frank with you, they run server mainframes, and blockchains are all about having data interconnectivity without server mainframes. So to the extent that they are moving into the space, it's because they see a threat to their core business.
So isn't this a bit like what you said, Chris, a few months back, that a lot of these companies look at blockchain tech and then want to use it for their own application?
Yeah, I mean, I get invited to meetings all the time in places like Canary Wharf in the city, and they've heard about me or someone in their staff, one of their Horizon scanners, this job title you get now, where you're Horizon scanner, you're basically paid to sit at Google, Google search engine, and just type stuff in and work out any potential threats to the company's business model. And obviously I come up a lot on the search engines, when you type in Bitcoin and stuff, because I've got a YouTube channel, I've got a Twitter, I've got
oh my God, come on, Chris.
So then I've got, like, you should see all the emails in my LinkedIn, right? So all my LinkedIn emails full of bankers and things like that, like, oh, it'd be great, I saw, you did a talk on, Bitcoin at this French conference or whatever, and then a talk, and no disrespect, but the thing is, like, you go into these meetings, and the first thing they want to know is, like, okay, how do we brand this? Or they asked me the one time, what's the regulatory opportunity with Bitcoin? In other words, how do we capture this for ourselves? Like, how do we tell our friends at the regulators to price any competition out of the market so that we can lock it in, so that if anyone wants to compete with us, they've got to be rich first? It's just like money is just a permission system.
Hold on for a minute. I can see Thomas having a good chuckle over here. Thomas, what's your take on this?
Well, it's Chris is raising a great point here. The question the businesses need to be asking is not how can they capture Bitcoin, but how can they survive the wave that Bitcoin's going to do to them and to their business. They need to be, how can we adapt? How can we change? Because IBM's not looking at it right.
Well, wait, hold on, Thomas.
Okay.
My first tip to any businesses out there would be to really think and put your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye.
It is. Everything's going to change. It's very much over for the old way of doing business, the old way of taking people's data, whatever. If you look at what IBM's doing with FedCoin, they need to stop trying to compete with Bitcoin. FedCoin's not going to be as good as the pseudo-anonymous Bitcoin or the better Bitcoin they're building in the future. What they do need to do is that Internet of Things like Preston's talking about. The washing machine, basically everything that has a barcode or a QR code on it right now, imagine that as a data entry in an Internet of Things, where, like Preston said, you can build a better, base to start from. The database of the blockchain comes with the security. It's decentralized. You don't need servers. Why is IBM getting into it? But the washing machine could automatically order detergent for itself when it runs out. The washing machine could have its own bank account for ordering detergent. The car could tell you it was low on oil. It could schedule its own maintenance. It's going to communicate with the mechanic.
It could buy stock options in oil. It could buy CDS.
It would hedge.
To hedge the price of the gas.
Detergent. So like the crops of detergent are running down. So yeah, it would hedge against detergent prices. I mean,
I think no. Would surely I think it was what's his name, Greg something was talking the other day at the London conference. The top Ian Gregg, that's right. And Tom Cantor, my friend's very good filmmaker, he filmed it. I've just finished watching it, and he said one of the things about the PKI, public key infrastructure in these systems, is that they can declare their own intent, so it can sign its own messages. So if you think about what it means to be a car, surely if you were a car, existentially a car, you existed through time as a car, you would want your operation to be sustainable.
No, he's right, Chris, you're right. I know, I laugh with you, Preston.
So just because I use the word existential, everyone thinks it's funny, but no, it's if you're being...
Chris is a philosopher by trade. You can't blame him for quoting.
A better lifestyle for cars.
Hold on. I think we need to back up. Like, it's a fucking data structure, right? So I think one thing that everybody does the minute that a blockchain gets dropped into the equation, if you're talking about Bitcoin, then yeah, talking about value transfer is obviously central, because that's the purpose of the application. That's the way that the application secures itself. That's the way that that's the problem that the application is designed to solve. But with all of these other things, I don't actually see that big a problem with IBM getting into an open source blockchain infrastructure. So let's say they do make something that's absolutely killer, that's derived from existing technologies. Chances are they're going to have to, although they are notorious patent trolls, that kind of innovation is going to percolate down, chiefly because you have to know how a blockchain works, and you have to be able to inspect the code if it's going to be usable, because otherwise you can't prove. I mean, no one's going to use a blockchain where you can't see the code, because you might as well just, that defeats the purpose of the exercise. So I think that when we talk about corporates adopting blockchains, there is absolutely nothing to be afraid of from a consumer perspective, from a developer perspective, from a political perspective, from any kind of perspective. Because the fact is, the better these platforms become, the simpler it's going to be for your average developer to actually tweak them to a particular need which they have, which may not necessarily require a Bitcoin-type structure, but may even carry out a Bitcoin-type function. One example that I thought of the other day, they have this thing called Brixton bucks, which is basically where in Brixton they want to keep local money in the economy. So what you can do is you can issue currency which is only spendable in Brixton at certain shops who accept Brixton bucks. So what you can do is you can say, right, we have this currency and we're going to work with this because we want to support local businesses. You could quite easily now set up a crypto ledger which is smart contract enabled. So forget tokens, forget mining, just the data structure which is transparent, which would secure itself, and which you could have new transactors hopping onto it, acquiring Brixton bucks, and then spending them seamlessly back and forth between various different shops in that local area. And that wouldn't be a problem. You could have the Fed, or you could have the Bank of England setting up a database where they could track the movement of money throughout the economy and have a real-time gross settlement system where there would be zero risk that if you had funds stored with them, that those funds would disappear when that bank went insolvent. This deposit insurance idea would be gone, because basically the Bank of England is money for all intents and purposes in the British economy. And equally for the Internet of Things, I don't think that we should be looking at it in terms of washing machines ordering their own detergent. Because who cares about washing machines ordering their own detergent? That's a business decision that you make on the basis of how liquid you are. Really, like, why would?
I want my washing machine negotiating for me on the open market for lower detergent.
Yeah, but that has.
I want my washing machine making me money on the hedge.
I don't disagree with anything Preston just said, but that's not what they were talking about. They're talking about the Internet of Things. I wasn't talking about blockchains. Well, yeah, you could use an SQL database for this. You don't have to use a blockchain. I'm just saying that if you are a washing machine, right, your being is to wash clothes, you want to exist into the future, you have to negotiate good payment terms on the very materials you need to survive, just as you would want to negotiate a good price for the food that you buy as a human, right?
Absolutely.
And it's a value
not
option.
Necessarily.
I mean, if you less money and get superior soap, perhaps the washing machine is going to last longer, hence extending its lifetime. Like the washing machine is fighting for its life.
Maybe it's a suicidal washing machine.
Guys, blockchains
That's a lemon. That's a bad model.
I think what we're talking about here is we're absolutely right. This Internet of Things, where this whole decentralization of products, services, goods, systems, devices, and even people and animals, and I think that we're moving beyond this kind of the Internet that was constructed now and 10 years ago is it maybe the blockchain and these kind of technologies, decentralized communication that's cryptographically secure. Are we starting to see the beginnings of the Internet of Things? Because I think actually we're onto something quite important. I think that's what really was quite interesting for me with IBM, because I was thinking, well, the big dog, Hal, has finally, took a bite out of the system and used it for his own, and they're probably going to do pretty good on it. And I think all the things we joke about the washing machine, and Preston, you're absolutely right when you say all the different points about how it works on the tech angle side of it. But I really do think that life would be easier if things can communicate between each other. And yes, I would want my my washing machine choosing the cheapest detergent in that week when it looked online for me, and then paid it via bit. I think that's only a logical step. I mean, and I think in 20 years' time when they look back at this cheesy YouTube video, hey guys, from the past to the future, I think
it's not even in 3D.
Those guys ain't even in hologram. I wanted to download Shem's body and make love to him. put me on the peer-to-peer network. No, but seriously, I can't wait for that to happen. Can you? I can't wait to have Cameron Diaz's body gets put on the fucking internet and everyone starts sharing it, and she has to, intellectual property. Could you imagine that? That's going to be an absolute nightmare.
So, what's the next story?
Come on. No, but back to the Internet of Things. Guys, answer the question. As we are at the moment, how does this blockchain tech relate to Internet of Things, and how far do you see the Internet of Things going if it goes all the way to the top?
It's going to start simple, and I'm going to quote the great prophet, which is that being Swift on security, and she once said, "The Internet of Things we can't secure," and basically it's going to be a way that if you have a machine-to-machine communication which you need to administer, you just are going to want the certainty that your instructions are protected by public-private key encryption, and that unless someone has that particular private key, or a 3 of 5 or an 8 of 10, that machine is not going to respond to their instructions. A blockchain is a really efficient way of doing that. I think if we're talking about cars that acquire independent existence and make their own decisions about how to fuel themselves, firstly, I don't think blockchains are particularly good at that because they're not active; they're passive. They respond to instructions. They're not carrying out computation and making decisions. Although you can put programs on them at the moment the way that they're currently structured, and this includes any Ethereum chain or any derivative designs, you need to actually make an API call to the blockchain and then have that validated by other nodes. So it's going to start out as really just a very straightforward security measure rather than dishwashers ordering their own stuff. It's going to be, we have driverless cars and we have parking meters. How do we tell the driverless cars that they can't park in a particular spot because we're having a parade that day? And what you would do is you would have a blockchain which would be run by, there are two ways to do this. Way number one is you can do it Google style. And if you do it Google style, it means you put a shitload of fiber everywhere and you have high-speed connections to Google servers and you log into Google Parking, and Google Parking shows all of the municipalities' parking requirements on a given day. Which is a bad deal for Google and which is a bad deal for the municipalities who are exposed to Google at the same time. The flip side of that is that you have the municipality slapping Wi-Fi hubs on particular parking meters. And when they do that, you can tell that parking meter it has two states, park or don't park. And if you want, in the local council or town hall, you just send out an instruction, a broadcast, and you say, right guys, today we're having a parade on Main Street, so particular nodes 1 through 1,000, which are on these streets, but don't let anybody park there. And so when the driverless car comes up, it's an open standard by which that car is able to talk to that parking meter and do so extremely securely and very consistently without necessarily needing to have a server, which is being run on a Mountain View, mediate that particular interaction. So I think it's going to start simple rather than this complex autonomous machinery. And maybe I'm just being a Debbie Downer when it comes to futurism, but I think it's going to start very simple, very practical, and frankly, almost entirely not noticeable.
Absolutely. I think I think that's exactly the way it's going to go. It's going to start off. I mean, we're already seeing the Internet of Things. You know, if we was to look 20 years back in the day, they'd say, oh, you know, no one has a mobile phone these days, and now everyone's got a mobile phone. And I think that in the future, you know, we are entering the days of decentralization. We're technically in the digital age, you know, and it won't be long. You know, give it another 100 years, when 100 years of blockchain or whatever technology comes to replace that. I mean, isn't HTTP or whatever, you know, that's like the first precursor of the internet, isn't it? I'm not a coder. Sorry, bro.
TCP and SMTP and UDP were the first ones, and now, yeah, we have HTTP and HTML, obviously hypertext markup language, so that we can start declaring our intent in a way that's actually, you know, usable. But it really relied on human-readable, machine-readable languages like HTML that enabled the democratization of this type of technology in the 90s. Because now, as long as you were like a weekend warrior, you could sit down and you could make your way through it. Still, it surprises me how few people know how to write HTML. It's not technically a coding language. It's just markup. You're just using English language and putting markup around it. And actually, if you do want to start toying around with it, you can probably start going to some of the hackathons. I think Eris, you guys have just started doing some hackathons, is that right? And people can start to get involved and get their hands dirty with some of this stuff. And all you really need to know is HTML and JavaScript.
And let me guess.
Yeah, I mean, it helps.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to make a joke and say, yeah, we're doing a hackathon. We're looking for guys to help us hack ISIS. Sorry. Go on, carry on.
Oh dear. I mean, yeah, Eris has just started so we're working on the core stack, and we've just sort of got it to a place where we can start inviting people over and saying, hey, come hang out with us and start learning contract writing. At the moment, we're working, so most contracts have to be written in LLL. Soon the stack next couple of weeks is going to be Solidity capable, and Solidity is one of the programming languages at C-like being developed by the Ethereum project. And so, yeah, I mean, we're getting to the point where we want people to start playing. Well, we've always wanted people to start playing around with the stack, but what we want is for people to say, okay, you can roll your own blockchain, and you can tell it to do whatever the hell you want. And you can even close it off and secure it. You know, you have to mine, but you can control who mines. So it could be 1 node, 5 nodes, 100 nodes, whatever matters, or whatever is relevant for the particular application you're designing. Given that set of facts, what would you build? And you know, and you can have your own blockchain, and you don't need to pay anyone to use it. And so, what are you going to do? And so for us, it's about seeing what everyone's going to do. I think one point to bring up. Specifically on decentralization, people have said this is the age of decentralization. You just said it like 5 minutes ago. We hear it all the time. I'm not entirely sure if that's true.
Why not, Preston? Tell us.
Well, because to be honest with you, why do we centralize? Why do we have servers? Or why do we administer databases? And the answer is because we need to supervise and we need to verify that things happen, and we need to be certain that certain things will happen in a certain way, and that and that if they don't happen the way that we want them to, that we can step in and change them. That's why we have central servers administering interactivity. That's why we have these central silos which run the internet. The promise of blockchain is not necessarily that you have this age of decentralization. It's that you can have a predictable interaction without needing that silo. So for at least the perspective that we take, this is a question of authentication, secure authentication that you can administer without a huge amount of hardware or without running web servers, where the users themselves are actually providing both the processing power and the hard drive space in order to administer that interaction on the basis of a voluntary consensus or on the basis of whatever their particular requirements are. So it's a slightly different focus. Decentralization is the ultimate result. But really the point is that you need to be able to verify what's happening, and you want to be able to verify what's happening, and you want to know that when you have an interaction, it's always going to play out in a certain way in accordance with certain rules. So I think it's a consequence, not the primary driver for why we actually have this technology.
Yeah, that's really well said, actually, that you're looking for something that is predictable. And also, I often tell people that are fairly fanatical about decentralization that if everything was decentralized, you wouldn't have consciousness. You wouldn't have perception of anything, right? It's necessary for some things to be centralized, and centralization and decentralization are continuums, right? Gravity is decentralized. If it weren't, as a rule set, nothing would exist because everything would just fly apart. So it's necessary to sometimes centralize things, and that brings back
absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. You both said points that are really relevant to, you know, the rules, understanding, truth, trust, and, you know, and that application into technology. I'm not a technology-based person. I suppose what I'm coming from the angle is a social cultural perspective, but also a technological development. So, you know, as in the old days, food is centrally grown, food is becoming more and more, you know, decentralized, that even technology, information is becoming decentralized. And for me, I am an absolute fan of that, because I don't need anyone to give me any rules. I don't need anyone to give regulations, but I do need Google to manage my email and manage the things that I haven't got time to manage. So there is benefits and negative consequences of centralization. I really think that the real taste test of whether decentralization or centralization is good is what's its application? Is it good in its essence? Is it good in its end result? So for me, you know, the one thing that really inspires me about Bitcoin is that there's no middleman, and I know that's something really very simple and basic, but for me,
there is a middleman.
Well, there is a middleman in terms of technology and the nodes and things like that. But what I'm talking about, there's no middleman bank. There's no, and for me, I'm very angry at the banks. I'm very angry that those people that are fucking supposed to look after, you know, please don't be cynical, Preston, with that. I generally mean that, because I want the world to get better, you know, and I do want. I believe in technology can help transform the world. You know, people say, "Oh, revolution." I don't believe in that. I believe that our species, humanity, needs to get out into the stars. We've got to look after the planet, and I believe that if you look at all the trends of the way the world is going, you know, first we had the telegraph, then the telephone, then TV, you know, internet, virtual reality. You know, the world is technological progression, you know. And what do you guys think about the singularity? We've never spoken about that before, and that actually might be worth to have a quick detour, 5-minute detour. And you guys are the best. Okay.
First of all, yeah, this actually nicely takes us into our next story that Tom wants us to talk about with the space drive that NASA have come up with. But we've just got a technical question that's come up from a John for Preston, saying, "What do you mean when you say stack?" Because you use that word a lot in your literature when you say use our stack.
So stack is really just another word to describe a set of tools that a particular developer uses to accomplish a particular objective. So in the case of what Eris does, that means that we have a template blockchain. We then have a client program called the D server. So the D server interprets what happens on that blockchain and then displays it in JavaScript. And then we have a sort of chain and contract manager, which we call the Eris Package Manager, or EPM. So when you have those three tools, if you take it together, that gives developer the tools that they need to set up a blockchain, tell that blockchain what the rules are, and then administer it as they see fit. So that's all we mean by stack in that case.
So this is probably inspired by
is everything you need to run. And we have a guy at work that's a full stack developer. That means he can do the front end, like the visuals, and the back end where they store the data. So it's a fascinating term that's more and more used these days.
Yeah, so this is the famous OSI model that is probably has inspired the use of this term in the Bitcoin industry as well. So Tom, tell us about this NASA story then. What's going on? I heard there was something about there's some water on Ganymede. Is that right?
Well, it's not just the water on Ganymede, which is going to be cool. We're going to surf, and we're going to be able to see Jupiter in the sky. Maybe we'll have little zodiacs or something, little ships we could fly around on.
Yeehaw!
But basically, as the examiner says here, NASA successfully tests engine that uses no fuel, violates the laws of physics.
What is it? Is it using the Casimir effect?
Microwave. To understand it, but it uses microwaves.
All right.
It bounces things back and forth in a small chamber, and this produces thrust, basically. Something comes out of it, and we can push forward through this back and forth pushing pressure. And it's the thing about this story I want to identify here is not only has NASA tested it and it works, but the Chinese government has tested it as well. So I believe that we are seeing perhaps the historic beginning of a U.S. NASA outer space race.
Wow.
Right? We're going to the end of the universe here in minutes, not in years.
Well, we're not going to the end of the universe, are we?
Well, we're
come on, man, that was a great saying.
Well, maybe the end of the galaxy.
Our universe, where we live, like Pluto.
Yeah.
Like if you go to Mars, Pluto, Jupiter, like name the planets we can fly to now, like the moon.
America.
But how much,
Yes.
how much thrust, I mean, even assuming that the quantum weirdness on this one is right, and this is definitely a case of quantum weirdness, how much thrust is it going to generate, and how big, I mean, if you have to have something...
It's the equivalent of a £5 note resting on your hand.
No shade. Really?
Yeah, but because there's no gravity in space, it's a cumulative thrust, isn't it? I think it's like a £5 note resting on your hand.
The Chinese can develop an M drive that has 72 grams of thrust, enough to be a satellite thruster.
Sorry. I got mixed up with the ion drive. Yeah, so guys, let's quickly run back to the water on the 3 moons. Theo, great to see you, buddy. Right.
Just in time to talk about surfing on one of Saturn's moons. So,
okay, this goes well with the other story because, as Newsweek says here, a huge saltwater ocean was found on Jupiter's moon Ganymede.
Wow.
So the Ganymede, one of the Jupiter's moons and the largest moon in the solar system, is seen on a global geologic map. NASA has confirmed that Ganymede, one of the moons orbiting Jupiter, has a saltwater ocean lying below its icy exterior, making it a viable location for life to flourish.
Thomas, can you quickly bring up a picture of Europa? Because there's 3 moons that are the ones with water under them, ice. Now, the problem is that one that you've just shown us is very close to the surface of Jupiter compared to the other moons. And if you look at Europa, it's quite interesting because Europa's the whitest of them. Have we got a real life picture of it as a and what they're currently thinking is that these kind of briny salt oceans with deep thermal vents. No, it's not Europa. It might be it is that one. It's got the cracks over it. Now, what they're thinking is that deep sea thermal vents and the tidal pull of the planet could potentially keep it warm in the surface. Now, I'm not too sure about the physics behind this, but I actually posted a tweet the other day, and I placed a bet. I said no, and I posted a link to this stuff. I said if there's salt water oceans and there's deep thermal vents, I bet we're going to see space shrimp. I really do, and I mean that. The reason why is because shrimp, if you look at them, they're very interesting little creatures. You know, they're really hardy little animals, and I've got a feeling that we're going to see a lot more water. Wasn't we in Caries quite recently that moon or small asteroid kind of thing that's between it's in the asteroid belt, and we've got a probe heading towards it now, and what they're finding is that water is actually quite common in the solar system. So all you need is a little bit of heat, you need a little bit of electricity, and the funny thing is that if there is deep sea thermal vents and this kind of briny water, I think there's more chance of life being there than someone like Titan. Because I don't know if you boys know that Titan, it's got kind of butane hydrocarbon liquid, but because of the viscosity of it or whatever they say, it's really slops. And they were modelling life microbes that could generate energy to cells with those elements based on that moon. Which I don't think that's very realistic, because I think there's more chance of say being on these salty, briny oceans. Yeah. What do you guys think? I mean, this is fascinating stuff. This really excites me because, I think not only is it going to be a feat of engineering excellence to be able to drill through, but I think if we can get through there, I think that we're going to find something. I think it's going to be microbes, all sorts of things, because we've gone down to 6 miles in Earth ocean. We've found strange creature, little shrimpy kind of things and things that live down there, and a whole kind of ecosystems independent. And even in Antarctica, I think it was about 2 years ago, they found a lake that was, a mile or so underground, and they drilled down there, and what did they find? It was this completely isolated lake for over 50 million years or whatnot. They found all different kinds of creatures. Little shrimp, swam up to the surface. So for me, this is really exciting stuff. And I want us to get out of space. I really want us to mine asteroids. For me, I think that's real where the money spin is going to be. I think
mine them for Bitcoin.
Preston, you're excellent businessman. You're hired. I think that if we can really get into space and do the mining thing, I don't know if you guys know, obviously Larry Page and some of those guys, they're funding Space Mining Corp or whatever it's called, Space Mining Resources. They reckon 1 mile or 1.7 mile long asteroids got enough of the noble precious metals as mined it all in completion of the whole of human history. So one of these asteroids so it's going to be a whole new gold rush, and era of prosperity. But as we've mentioned before, you can't take the old social cultural systems that are not sustainable into space, because we just keep wasting. So I think it's good. I want there to be a space race. I actually want China to get more involved with America and the International Space Station. It's such a shame that they're not, because I'm actually married to a Japanese lady. Obviously, Japan, China, two different places, but it's really evident East and West are very, very different way of thinking. Great to see you, by the way, Will. Looking good. All the ladies loving you. Yee-hee! But I really think that is. I think this space mining, a gold rush, and Carol Rosin, she's an eminent NASA scientist. I really recommend anyone to Google Carol Rosin. She always said that the global space industry, an industrial military complex, should really transform itself into a peaceful global space industry, which I hope it does. And I hope if we can marry the global military industry with the global mining industry, we have space submarines mining asteroids. And I think that would be a really exciting time. Ain't that right, Thomas?
And now that Will's back, I think we should double back and talk about the singularity, too. What do you think? Are computers going to get as smart as people, and are we going to live forever? Like, are they going to regenerate our insides so that we'll live forever? Steve Jobs wouldn't even get a liver transplant. Like,
yeah, I don't.
A new liver?
Perhaps. I mean, the 3D printing of organs and tissues sounds like, looks like it's possible. The singularity talk, I think it's a clever catchphrase, and it's a useful, I guess, way of describing a potential phenomenon, but I don't put much stock into it. I don't think artificial intelligence can approximate the specialty of the human brain, the specialties and the specialness of the human brain. So,
what about whoa, guys? What about quantum computing? What about the D-Wave computer? What about 50 years of development in quantum computing? How was that?
Computers have to get faster so I can run better 3D shooters.
Yeah, baby.
So we're going to have to use DNA-based computers so we can have faster 3D shooters.
I want to be able to shoot someone in the face quicker than someone else.
I don't know. If computers can replicate themselves, if computers can create previously unknown things, by themselves, if they possess that animated creativity that human beings show, the discrete combinatorial potential of the language of communication among humans, then yeah, maybe they could, but I think they depend on humans for those things.
Yeah, but what about Moore's law, guys? I mean, think about it. Every 18 months, processing speed doubles and all that kind of stuff. The current trajectory towards technology, the way that information, and what about surely you guys must know about that quantum computer the NSA have bought from D-Wave that's in their Utah data center that they've plugged into the net. I really think that we underestimate technology, and I think that I could imagine that humanity gives birth to a new race, quite literally 200 years, 3,000 years maybe, and I think that the space between humanity and machine will blur. I think that the internet has already shown us that gender, the lines of gender, age, race are already currently being blurred. How human is someone human if they are half machine? 3/4 machine, 100%.
All I know is if you've got an AI, you just keep it away from Docker, and you should be fine.
We should be okay then, dude.
What makes someone human for me is their ability to anticipate a world without them in it. And I think if the machine cannot do that, if the machine cannot understand what it means to be alive and to question its own response to its own existence,
Yeah, but
like data in Star Trek.
Yeah,
Data
but
in Star Trek was the
yeah,
perfect
but
illustration.
but the problem is that data in Star Trek is our conception of what we think artificial intelligence is, and the problem is we're still thinking in human terms. It's like aliens. Everyone goes, well, aliens look like this. They're thinking how we think. We're not
Well, yeah, of
thinking
course.
how
Yeah, because
these independent. Because what we don't understand is that these innumerable architect, intelligences, that hundreds of intelligences together, beyond if we're thinking, right, let's forget about binary computing or tri-state computing or quantum computing. Let's go 5-10 steps beyond that. So then it could potentially be a situation where a lot of theory and a lot of the research in this area is looking at AI and artificial intelligence, all those different things, as a completely separate new life form that's beyond us. And that's the dangerous thing, I think. But I also think that AI isn't a dangerous thing, essentially, because I think if you become self-aware, self-intelligent, and alive, but what about biocomputers? What about bio life forms?
Here's what I think. I think we need
Go for it, Tom.
We need to give the machine a mission. What Chris was talking about, the machine understanding that there's a world outside of itself and that world is worth preserving. Basically, like preventing them from the obvious idea of kill all humans, right? Because obviously.
No. Tom, you're still thinking, just as I do and I did, that a massive intelligence, hundreds of humans, thousands of humans, is going to understand the innate beauty of life and the sacredness of life, probably more than we are.
I hope so, but like that washing machine that's owning its own detergent and like
but that washing machine hasn't got a bio. It hasn't got a bio-organic.
The washing machine is simply. The washing machine is simply executing the intent of a designer. So the designer thinks on behalf of the washing machine and then carries out the intentions of that designer into the future. But human beings are teleological. We can anticipate our death, we can imagine a world after our death, and we can bring ourselves into the present such that we bring our past to a future and we weave a present moment out of that. That's something that AI can't do. Well, at least not yet. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere.
We need to teach the AI that we're going to explore the universe together, and that basically convince it to become a discoverer, right? That the AI wants to know more about the world. Like that, we don't know what it's like to live on Ganymede yet, but we can interest the AI in that. Then, what we're saying with those quantum computers with the DNA, imagine we could like shoot a ball of something at Ganymede, right? And that ball hits Ganymede, it gets through the atmosphere, hits the Earth, and it starts like generating a city for us to live in. And then when we get to Ganymede, we could live in that city that the computer built for us.
Yeah.
And
guys, this is like the plot to the Star Trek movies. So we've got V'ger, and now we've got Genesis. But I mean, there is a strand of singularitarianism. That's a long word. Yeah.
Right, is that an ism now?
It is totally an ism. Singularitarianism. But basically, I mean, I think again, being the official Debbie Downer of crypto, it's something where we'll simply become the machines. We're already seeing mechanical augmentations which help people with their sight. We're having mechanical augmentations that give people their use of their arms back. Nick Bostrom said once, he said, "What happens if you get a quantum computer which you're capable of implanting in a human brain, which is the size of a grain of sand, and when a baby is born, and then interfacing with a human being, and when a new baby is born, you then put that computer in the brain." He said, "You've effectively killed the child, because what happens is you've just increased its computational or thinking capacity by several orders of magnitude in an instant, and that's going to be a very different kind of life." I think that we're going to see a convergence rather than something where an AI comes out and comes Skynet and eats us. It'll be something where we actually use this stuff to accomplish our aims, and at that point you will have a society that looks very different from the one we're in. But I don't think we're dealing with something where we're going to have some AI god that comes out of nothing instantaneously. Its odds are very bad, especially if if it needs to be powered, and you can just either pull the plug or just drop a bomb on it and result in its being destroyed. So I suspect as technology advances, we will leverage it to increase our own capacities, and it'll be a very gradual process. Learn a language in a day, that kind of thing. And we'll see. But I think this sort of extreme view of us and them is probably a dated one.
That's right. We're going to become a biotechnical species. The technology will emerge from inside of us. And it's not as if we don't have precedent for this. Every time we see designers bring technology to large populations of people, we see massive social change. And remember that the information technology, which has been going ever since ancient Egypt, has been the only industry in history that has never taken a downturn. It has been a consistent rise ever since. The internet has been one of the fastest growing technologies. Like I say in the ProTIp video, there are more people online today than there were on the planet in 1960. That's a phenomenal statistic, because people don't think exponentially, they tend to think linearly.
And so that's why that humanity needs and is heading towards a globally unified, technologically advanced culture. And that's an AI, decentralization, of virtual reality, all these new technologies, cybernetics, biotechnology, genetics, they're all the trappings of, and that's the way we've got to go. I think it's too easy for people to say, oh yeah, but we're going to destroy ourselves. No, that we've got to take responsibility. It's too easy to bail out.
Bringing it down to earth. I mean, let's bring this down to earth. That's a good point. I think if we look at what's happened in Egypt and Syria, with dissidents in China, with Bitcoin itself, you see that there is, and I'll describe it as a sort of liberal culture, but that's liberal and not in the sense that Fox News understands it, but in the sense that Francis Fukuyama understands it. And there is this generation of under 35s who really don't see national borders, they don't see skin color, they don't see gender differences, they don't see issues like transsexuality. It's just like totally blind to it. That's awesome, the fact that that exists. And it's not ubiquitous by any stretch of the imagination, but you do have that global culture starting to emerge, and it's a very tolerant culture, and it's a very meritocratic culture, and it's a very level and egalitarian one, but in a very classical liberal sense, which is why I think we see so many libertarians and anarcho-capitalists attracted to the space, because it's kind of a version of the way they want the world to look.
Oh, have we lost Preston?
I think so.
And there we go, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what happens when AI is in control.
I would echo something that Preston said earlier, where he said, it's time for humanity to grow up and stop acting childish. And I think a lot of the old ways that we've seen are going to end. And when he talked about the under 35s or in that range that don't care about homosexuals or racism or any of these other old issues, I totally agree with that. And I think we're seeing a rise of that. We're joined by Theo. Theo, you haven't said anything at all. It's now Theo time. And he's muted. That's why he hasn't said anything, because you can't hear him. But there it is. Theo Goodman. Woo!
And Will Pangman as well. I haven't seen you in a while, Will. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Chris. Good to see everybody. It's good to be here. Yeah, I like the topic a lot, and I think, what you were saying just there, Thomas, about, taking responsibility, building on what Preston was saying, that human beings have to take responsibility as the creative species, right? And it's not uncommon to see new species emerge, new races emerge among the animal kingdom. I don't see why. I kind of think of the universe as being intrinsically intelligent. I mean, everything I've learned about biochemistry, about physics, about high math, calculus, and so on, is that elementally nature is intelligent. And there is an intelligence there that's kind of like the mystery at the base of everything we know. So we've had compartmentalized, specialized social engineering happen certainly in the last 200 years, probably more, where people emerge, in adulthood with enough, today we call them safety nets, but basically anytime you've outsourced any sort of decision-making ability or individuality, and this is done all over the developed world with money, right? Money is we've outsourced we've outsourced a lot of value, wealth creation, notions of property to, let's say, government or banks, and they manage it for this. And we've forgotten the kind of animating contest in doing it yourself and how enriching and how valuable that is. Instead, we've only known the convenience of outsourcing this process to a mother or a father type of figure in terms of the state or whatever institutions, like Chris was alluding to earlier. So I definitely ascribe to the view that all of this is in our control, and as soon as we stop kind of gliding along, going along with things, as soon as we see something we don't like or would like to see something different and we take an action, that's at that very moment of taking the action is when when creativity can happen. Just sitting by and letting it, watching it happen and waiting for something to happen to you, idle hands, right? So that's kind of how I view it. That's why I think anyone out there who's interested in this kind of stuff, technology or money or history, should just activate themselves. Just get active somehow. Take some action. Think of what you can directly impact, what you can directly influence or control yourself, and take action. And sitting back and waiting and watching things, you're just nobody. People want that sense of importance. You don't want to be a passenger the whole time. So once you remember what it's like to not be a passenger, it's pretty exciting. So test it out.
Yeah, Marshall McLuhan said. Marshall McLuhan actually said that no one's a passenger on Spaceship Earth. We're all pilots, and it's a very, very, it hits you really hard. I love that guy. Right, so let's quickly do some advertising, because you know how much I love advertising. Pro tip: we're doing a crowdfund. In case you hadn't noticed, you must be living under a rock. And we've had some money coming in whilst we've been on air. No, get the Bitcoin up, Tom. Let's see how much we've had. Very cool, very cool. Almost 25 bucks there just whilst we've been on air. Sure, we can do more. If you're at home, you're just thinking about it. We do actually have a level of funding, which I'm just going to show you now, because we want it to be super inclusive and make sure that everyone gets represented. So all the way down the bottom here, you see this one? I call it the what the fuck pledge. What the fuck? 50K. Go on, do it. 50 grand. No idea what we're going to deliver if we get 50 grand. Oh, actually, I do. I do, because there are some stretch goals, and you can see what we're pledging to. If you pledge to us, this is what we're going to work on for the next year, Leo and I. So yeah, please keep that money coming in.
I'm going to advertise for you. Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, of course you can.
So basically, what Chris is doing here is very much in line with oh shit, what the hell just happened? Sorry, there we go. So it's very much in line with, I think, what people should have been doing in the Bitcoin space, which is developing infrastructure that does not need administration and does not need a corporate and does not need it does not use a blockchain and then move everything off of that chain. It actually leverages a distributed fund, which an individual can then use themselves in order to interact with the chain. So this is not something where we're setting up a change tip where you move all the stuff into a silo. Not that there's anything wrong with change tip. I have friends who work for change tip, but for those who are actually really keen on decentralization, this is something where they can take those tools, put it in their own hands, and then use it to reward content creators, which is a process which is entirely within their control. It's just automating that process as, in terms of how they interact with the content creators they want. So it's something which really follows the ethos of Bitcoin. The network is there. This allows you to deal with the network on very certain terms, and it does a very specific thing. And there are very few apps that do that because most people are trying to extract value from intermediating transactions. This doesn't do that at all. Chris is not getting money apart from the Indiegogo campaign, which I just gave $50 to. He's not getting any money from these transactions. This is a tool which allows people to use Bitcoin in a different way that runs in the background that they don't even notice. So, I mean, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the things that we responded to earlier on Reddit, because one of the most popular questions that comes up is, well, how do I install this on my website? You don't have to install it on your website. If you know how to copy and paste, you know how to use this app. It's true you do have to get a Bitcoin wallet, but that's really easy now. You've got apps on the iPhone like Bread Wallet, you've got blockchain.info, you've got Hive, look all these things up. We'll link to them below after we finish the show, and they're super, super easy to set up. You can get a Bitcoin wallet pretty much set up within a minute, within 60 seconds. Just go on the App Store, download Mycelium if you're on Android, or that's MYCLEUM. Or Bread Wallet. I highly recommend Bread Wallet on iOS devices, and you can be set up within 60 seconds. The length of time it takes to download the app, to put in a PIN number on the phone, and then just copy paste that address that you're given. It's like a bank account number, and just copy paste it into your YouTube video descriptions, into your blog posts, just anywhere. There's no downside. It literally takes you a minute, and the worst that could happen is maybe you don't get any donations for a while, or maybe you only get a few here and there. But if everyone does it, it creates a virtuous spiral. And one of the things we want to do is we want to keep this sustainable, right? So we want your ideas, like how do we keep this sustainable? Because obviously we can't, biggest problem open source has got is this sort of ideology amongst its sort of followers where they just have to do everything for free. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a debate where we ask ourselves, is anything really free? If something's free, do we give up our freedom? Because everything costs money, it costs us to live. And I know a lot of open source developers that just pass the costs of development onto their employers. They just overcharge their employers. That employer then charges that extra cost onto the consumer, and it's all just going around and around in circles. So yeah, we're thinking about business models. We're thinking about having us as developers as a subscription option that you can opt in or out of. We want your feedback on that because we want to build this tool. Let me get up Tom's screen there. We want to build this tool for you. You know, we want to build this tool for people. So that you can be the best possible version of yourself when you're online. Now that's actually an older version that Tom's got there. So things have kind of moved on a little bit. Let me see if I can. I wanted to sort of show a demo of how to get it into. Let me just see here. One second.
And Chris, while you get that set up, let me just quickly comment. I mean, Chris, you've been doing an absolutely fantastic project with this, with your team, and I really hope people out there really hear the call and to take up arms and to help support these guys. You know, everyone here today is working on fantastic projects, and it's an absolute honour to be involved with you guys and to be you know, at the table, as to say. And I really hope people hear Chris's words out there. You know, and as he rightly says, you know, he's not making profit. This isn't about, you know, an evil corporation. This is about enabling people to be paid for the value and the content they create, and to be able to tip people, which is fantastic. No one's enabled a project like this. So, you know, everyone dig deep, dig hard in those pockets out there, and it just throw cents, throw coins, throw whatever, throw, help Chris out, help the team. Those guys are doing it, and they're doing it for real. They're for real. There's not many people for real out there doing that, and Chris is one of the guys doing that. So help him out. You know, make life a little bit easier for everyone that's making stuff like this. And Chris, I've seen it. You work very, very hard. You know, and not that I want to take any precedence away from you to other people, because everyone works hard. But you know, you're really passionate, and it's very inspiring. So people out there, really, really help him out and help him get set up on this.
I really appreciate that. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? Is that a yes? Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so yeah, if you want the app to work on your social media or anything, so here's the app up here in the top corner. It's just grayed out. And you can just go edit your profile, just copy your Bitcoin address from the clipboard and hit save, right? You just paste it into your profile, and then when I refresh the page, there you go. So the app up here is lit up orange, and then the address is now highlighted with a checkbox on it. And then if I go up here to the app itself, can you all see that? Should have flown up.
Yep, it's going good.
What you can do is you can start to select people. So look, obviously someone has sent me a Bitcoin address into my inbox starting 19A. I don't really recognize that, so maybe I'm just going to take that off because I'm not sure what it is. I'm going to take off my notifications because I don't want to pay myself. I can see that's the ProTIp address. So I've been spending a lot of time. I don't want to pay myself there. But you can then go to like the ignore list, and you can see like all the people you've ignored, and then you've got a subscribe list. Right, so these are all the people over the last month that I've been using it, that I've been subscribing to, and you can like up the amount. and you can say, actually, I want to pay that the kids that Roger Ver was had his picture taken with when he was in the Caribbean recently. I want to just pay them automatically for the next 4 weeks, no matter what happens. You know, I like this guy who shouted me out on Twitter recently. I want you to tip him like for the next 4 weeks, 14 cents a week, just automatically. And you know, it just helps you to. It just takes a lot of the cognitive load out of the financial system, because one of the things that I was studying when I was doing this, because I was trying to solve my own problem and I wanted to make my work sustainable as well, and it just occurred to me that one of the things that Clay Shirky brings up in the early 2000s is he says to every economic transaction there is a cognitive cost, there's a cognitive overhead, that it's not really that people don't want to pay each other, it's just that to do it at the moment you have to get a credit card out and type a 16-digit PIN number, or if you use PayPal you've got to go through all of the extra costs associated with that, and it's a cognitive cost. Every time you do it you've got what's called activation energy, you've got to divert yourself from one train of thought into another train of thought, and that can be very, very debilitating. People don't want to change. Like, I don't want to get into the shower, I don't want to get out of the shower. We don't like change. And so what I was trying to do was I was saying, well, why don't I get all of that cognitive overhead and just batch it to once a week or once a day or something like this at an interval of time, so that you get it out of the way. And then what if you could anticipate getting something extra for your money over the week? Because now artists, knowing that you've charged up this wallet, would have an incentive to reach out to you and say, subscribe to my channel and maybe I'll give you extra material, right? If you subscribe to me, then I will give you extra stuff. And then so people could go out looking for opportunities and looking for potential. And then the way that we would get around all the miners' fees on the Bitcoin network is we then batch up the payments in weekly installs, because of course Bitcoin doesn't charge commission, it charges based on the amount of data that you put in the blockchain. So you could then massively reduce the fees. So these three components just came together for me in an idea, and I put it up on Reddit about May last year, and people sort of really liked it. Somebody stepped up and said, oh, actually I had the same idea a few years ago and no one's built it yet. And then I posted up again and we kept on talking about it, and it just seemed like, well, no one, a few people have stolen it since then, but when we were sort of talking about it they weren't. So I thought, well, okay, am I the right person to do this? Yes, I think so, because it's coming from the heart. I'm doing this because I need it, and hopefully other people think that too. So but it involves you. It's up to you. You need to make this work. This could potentially put an end to advertising and marketing and clickbait once and for all. It could put an end to all that spammy material. So I'm really hoping that you can support this project and tell your friends about it, and please find anyone who makes content online who isn't being rewarded right now that they need to hear about this as well.
So what's the funding level at right now?
It's about $2,300, and I know I've got other money coming in because people have said that they will, they just haven't got around to it yet. The most urgent thing for me right now is making sure that we stay on the front page of Indiegogo, because right now we are, but we're sort of slipping down to the bottom because the algorithms picked up that the funding kind of rushed in the first 24 hours, and now it's kind of tapering off a little bit. And obviously what's not helping is that we're accepting money in Bitcoin as well, which means that half the money is coming in Bitcoin, which means that the tally that they have, that the running tally of the amount raised isn't going up. So that algorithm is showing me that we've had 1,600 visits, which sounds like a lot to me. I don't know if that's a lot to
1,600 or 16,000?
No, 1,600.
Well, then it's a
sorry, 1,800. Sorry, 1,800 now. Okay, that was 1,600 this afternoon. So we've had another 200 hits, 424 referrals. Mostly.
That's really good. That's more than $1 a person. That's great.
Yeah.
So I just want to remind everybody, there's also the WTF option. You can end this right now. Just hit the nuclear button, go for it. You'll become famous. We'll have you on air. You'll go down. We'll put your name in the code in the open source.
Medici.
Right. You'll get mad props for pressing the WTF button, and you can just end all this madness with the crowdfunding algorithms and
you know, SERPs and the SERPs and the SERPs. I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. Let's just
Yeah,
get
there's someone out there who's probably got
Yeah.
$50,000 that could just save this at the moment. That if you're sitting out there and you're looking for a project that can change the world, you're looking for something that's going to make the world a better place. This is your chance. You've got to go for it.
Right.
This is one shot.
So
one
let's
opportunity.
explain. So let's go back and explain what that is in case they didn't know. So you can just go to Kickstarter, and there's one option, WTF. I'm not going to say what it means because we're on, you know, could be youngins watching. So WTF option, and you pay $50,000, and then the crowdfunding is over. And then they still need funding after that to keep it going, but that's funding for 1 year, right, Chris?
Well, that's right. I just want to pull up as well. We've also had somebody that I really admire, Emin, who has written a lot. He's a professor, and he's written quite a lot about these kinds of tipping technologies. He's been very critical in the past. It looks like Michelle Seven has deleted her tweets. Okay, so that's weird. So anyway, so. There was some other tweets there. I don't know. I think it's something wrong with my Twitter, actually, not her. But he said, look, in response to her, looks privacy preserving and non-spammy. What's there not to like in regards to ProTIP? So I'm really privileged, and I do expect to earn people's trust as well. Like, I didn't want to do this as one of those because a lot of these crowd funds are really scammy. You know, they just kind of front load a whole load of funding when it comes in, and then they try to make it look more popular than it is, and they've got lots of PR. Because somebody told me I'll join this website called Muckrack, and Muckrack is like a register of journalists, and then you get to like send them privileged like sort of press releases and stuff, so they talk about your product. And I was like, okay, so I went over in curiosity and I looked it out, and it's like $2,000 a year to sign up to this thing. And this is exactly what I'm trying to kill, right? If you talk about my work in your magazine, please do it because you believe in it. Don't do it because I emailed you. I haven't sent out any press releases. I'm not intending on sending out any press releases because my honesty and my name is more important to me than the money, and I expect myself, I expect you to make me work for this, make me prove it. It's a 34-day campaign. It was deliberately staggered that way because we've got a release schedule of the 1st of May, and I need 2 weeks to chill out after this thing is over. But there's 4 weeks to go. I'm going to be online every day if I physically can. I'll certainly be on the internet to answer all of your questions. So come at me if you're thinking about whether or not to do it and you're not sure. Ask me a question, and if there's anything kind of stopping you, please let me know. And because I'm going to be here championing the people that need it the most. It's not, after this is over, when we raise the money, it's going to be about everybody else, not about us.
So, sorry. Are you gonna do a show about stealth addresses soon?
Well, yeah, we can ask Peter Todd on. We can ask the guys from Dark Wallet. I've already been speaking to them about collaborating. And remember, this is going to be an open source project, so there's nothing stopping anyone from taking our code and integrating it into their wallet. There's nothing stopping Dark Wallet from integrating our code into their wallets and the stealth addresses. And for those of you who don't know, a stealth address is a special kind of Bitcoin address. It's twice as long as a normal one. And how it works in theory is that every time you send a transaction over, it generates a new public key for you, so that anyone looking at the blockchain can't see or trace any of the donations back to you. Because obviously at the moment, under using the ProTIP system, if you advertise your Bitcoin address on your blog and someone's tracking that and someone's monitoring it, then they can see how much you've raised, right? Because they can just look it up on the blockchain. So you lose a little bit of privacy. But it's front-side anonymity for the sender. And we did that deliberately because that, we felt, mapped reality. Because in reality, when you go into a store, that store has to declare its earnings to someone. Like, that's public. If you go busking, people can see your face, and they can also see the money in the hat. So we felt like this was a closer model to the physical world that we currently had. It's not ideal. I agree that not everyone is going to want their legal identity linked to a Bitcoin address and therefore see everything that's coming in. But I think there are enough people who don't mind. I think there will be millions of people who will be like, you know what, I understand that some people might have those privacy concerns, but I don't. I don't mind if people send me money and people can see how much I'm earning. I'm okay with that, particularly if it isn't very much. And it's about helping out those people too. So yes, of course, we're going to look into stealth addresses and see about developing it in the future. But this all has to come in time.
Fantastic. And I think this leads us on to a final recap, and it's been fantastic to discuss with all of you guys. I mean, we've been discussing virtual reality, decentralization, we've been talking AI and stuff like that. We even talked about Europa, not the band, the planet, the moon, should I say. But any kind of lasting thoughts? Because I really felt that AI and that was a really important, and it kind of led on from the decentralization discussion we had, and then on further from IBM and the DEPT system that obviously using blockchain and Ethereum and stuff like that. So I mean, do we all agree about this idea of you know, a global technologically advanced cybernetic culture? I mean, because that's what each one of us was kind of talking about.
I mean, I think that what we're actually after here is we're looking at tools that allow people to do things on their own, without anybody else involved. It's about having data infrastructure where you can communicate with anyone else on your own terms. And I think that's the common thread through all of this, including with ProTIP. It's something where you can say, right, this is a tool. I have this global utility called Bitcoin. I can interact with it on certain terms, and I can do it consistently, and it does something that I want it to do. You don't, you know, much of the focus in this space has been on centralized authorities carrying out functions off blockchain. Most of Silicon Valley is focusing on this now. Coinbase is a centralized function. 21 Inc. is a venture-funded thing. Nobody knows what they're up to, but I can't imagine they're exactly doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. You know, any other facility which we see in relation to Bitcoin, every exchange which has been taken down, all of that is an off-chain facility. So people have logged in and they've said, right, cool, well, we're going to participate in this massively decentralized system on the basis of voluntary consensus. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move it onto somebody's servers. And I think that's crazy. So it's a question of having a data structure where you know what the rules are up front, you can participate and see how someone administers that process. And you can do it without a server involved. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of, you know, the fears about AI and the singularity and things about that, you know, of that nature have to do with something outside of yourself being in control of you. You know, your fears about these topics are about giving up control even more, or not knowing what control you have given up to some, you know, more powerful things. So if Bitcoin can teach the world anything, I'm pretty sure it will teach the world that monopolies on information, kind of what Preston was alluding to here, can be over if you just choose to access more information that happens to be available. And, you know, 20, 50, 100 years ago, there were major bottlenecks around pools of valuable information, and this was kept from the public for quote unquote their own good. So that's what it means to me. I think if we can relieve the binds around information and demonopolize or disintermediate the monopolists of their information.
Absolutely, and move us to a globally unified, sustainable culture that's highly advanced, technologically advanced, a world in peace, you know, east and west. You know, the world's getting a smaller place, and I think someone alluded to the idea that now, you know, people are a lot more open to you know, people with different sexuality, people with different beliefs, and for me, what really makes me angry about this whole ISIS thing is that it's the kind of epitome, it's the epiphany of hate, you know, of intolerance. You know, it's like the Fifth Reich, you know, and in this world that's become smaller and where things are reacting more, and you know, something over there affects us over here. You know, I really think that our one saving grace is to take responsibility, is to take the flag and to move forward with this progressive society that we want to build, this new world this new neo-world order, you know, that's beyond the old empire. The old empires are fallen, you know, and the old empires are scrabbling away to protect their own shifting sand islands, you know. And
yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point. It's about traversing borders and boundaries, and we're now living in an age of granularity, of giantism, where we're seeing smaller than ever before. We're getting down to the particle layer, And that eliminates those boundaries now, because it turns out that even the borders themselves are made up of those particles. And so whereas the map of the past used to be made out of paper, now the map is made out of the same substance as the terrain it describes. And that is fundamentally changing the way we think as a species that can identify boundaries, that specializes in language with borders and contrast between letters and backgrounds. And I think, yeah, it's a very profound movement to be going through, and we're very lucky to be witnesses to it. So, should we wrap up?
Guys, one last thing. I'd like to thank all the viewers out there, all the listeners. The A-Team is here to make your life better, to make reason easier. I would like to thank Thomas. I would like to thank everyone out there.
Preston.
I would like Theo. Will. I'd like to thank Chris and everyone here today on the news. We bring peace to you people out there. Take faith from our conversations today. Take spirit to go, and the sword of hope and the shield of truth, and join us in the fight to make the world a better place.
It's the hammer.
The hammer! We're going to smash it down!
No. It should... Pro tip. It's as easy to use as a hammer.
Okay, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. Good night.
Bye-bye.